turn on, tune in, and drop out. And I changed it in turn on your nonlinear thinking, tune in to the human mycelium, and drop out the laws of thought.
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to Earthlings 2.0, the show where we imagine how we could be better versions of ourselves and build a collective future we actually want to live in. Today's show is focused on the better version of ourselves aspect of our mandate here at Earthlings 2.0, because Albert Einstein said, "You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it." And we have a lot of problems in today's world, frankly, that we are struggling to solve. And our guest takes us on an adventure of how our minds have the ability to think in different ways, and how maybe too many of us are too dependent on what he calls linear thinking. That's that step-by-step sequential thought process. And this really resonated with me because before I met our guest, I didn't have a concept to describe my dominant thinking process. I just thought I was different. But our guest would say that all of us have this ability to think in a more abstract way. And if we put a more concerted effort on that nonlinear thinking, we might be pleasantly surprised with the results. But before we get there, I'm your host, Lisa Ann Pinkerton. I'm the CEO of the award-winning technology firm Technica Communications and the founder of Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability. Before going into PR and building WCS, I was an award-winning environmental science reporter for NPR and PBS. And whether this is your first or 50th time tuning in, thanks, Mom. We're so thankful to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. It's our pleasure to bring you these stories every week. And we really appreciate you listening to them. So if you want to get more involved with our community, you can do what others have done and follow us on social media, Earthlings Pod at Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can take our listener survey, let us know who you are and what you think, but it's still an anonymous survey, and it would really help us understand who's listening to the show. Like, we know numbers, but we don't know who you are as a type of person, and we would like to. We have a Substack newsletter that you can subscribe to. The link to that and the survey are in the show notes. And if you're feeling financially generous, you can also pay it forward, because there's a lot of companies that want to get covered on the show. We can't cover all of them, but some companies have started paying it forward, so they pay for somebody else to be on the show, and then we cover them as well. So hit me up, Lisa Ann at earthlingspodcast.com, if you're interested in paying it forward to someone else. And thank you to Resource Labs for having us on the network. Today, our guest is the founder of the Octopus Movement. That is a collection of thousands of nonlinear thinkers around the world who put their minds together to ignite transformative change. These people span artists, scientists, entrepreneurs, visionaries, myself. I don't know if I fall into any of those categories, but I'm a part of the group too. And we're all leveraging our brain power in this human mycelium to come up with new solutions to chronic social problems like hunger, homelessness, education, climate change, leadership, well-being. So our guide on this main mission is Perry Knoppert, aka Dr. Octopus. He's the founder of the movement. He's also an artist and filmmaker. We caught up with Perry from his home office in Amsterdam, and we kicked off the conversation around the differences between linear and nonlinear thinking.
We're trained, we're conditioned to think. But there's not a 2-year-old linear thinker. So we're all born nonlinear thinkers. And then we go to school. And then we're in the family. And then we're raised. And our teacher is explaining us things. You have to be at school at 9 o'clock. You have to do your homework. You have to do this, you have to do that. You cannot make any mistakes at school. That's a topic that I would love to talk about. But that's linear thinking. That's linear thinking, right? So our thinking is conditioned, and that's linear thinking. And that serves a purpose. It's wonderful. It creates the possibility to create. And we can go somewhere, we can develop, we can create a goal in mind, and we can go there. We can investigate how can we go there. That's all linear thinking. It's also linear thinking to see what we see right now. I'm looking at you, Lisa, and my linear thinking kicks in, and I'm like, oh, she's also wearing a headset, and there's a microphone in front of her. That's linear thinking. That's you're observing and you're giving it context. That's all linear thinking. The opposite is nonlinear thinking. So the opposite is almost the not thinking. I always address nonlinear thinking as to be the space between thoughts. So I have my conditioned thoughts that I notice things and I've created my thinking. So if I quiet my brain and I allow space to be in between these thoughts, that opens up my nonlinear thinking. And nonlinear thinking is the space where we create from. It's the creativity. It's where we have new thoughts. It's where the thinking before the thinking happens. It's some people might call it a gut feeling. You know it's true, but you don't know where it's coming from because your linear thinking is not involved. It is that time when you are taking a shower and all of a sudden this clicks in your brain. That's nonlinear thinking. What I'm the bottom line of nonlinear thinking is that you cannot control it. And that's there with kids. Let me give you an example to prove that this is actually the case. 1965, NASA space race. NASA was asking a consultancy company, we're looking for the most brilliant creative minds. Where can we find them? This consultancy firm did research all over the country in the US. They found out that there was a group of people where 98% of them were creatively brilliant. That group of people were 3 to 5 year olds. They're nonlinear thinkers. They're not linear yet. They're young, they're kids. If you ask a group of people to draw a flying horse, they will draw a horse with wings. If you ask, right? Linear thinking. If you ask a group of 3 year olds, 4 year olds to draw a flying horse, they will draw a hot air balloon with the horse underneath. Or whatever. That's nonlinear thinking. And I'm a huge fan of that. And I believe that in today's world, this is super important because of everything that's going on. And I feel that we need to go to a balance between linear and nonlinear thinking. It's not that I'm against systems and linear thinking. I can explain that later, what the connection between systems and linear thinking is and why it's there. And it's not about everything should be nonlinear. But I do think it's important to address this, to talk about this topic, to create some change in leadership, but also to change something in humanity so we can use this language to make a difference. Because lots of troubles are coming from linear thinking, lots of bias, lots of racism, lots of ridiculous things are coming from the linear world. And the Octopus Movement is a space where a lot of nonlinear thinkers are, and linear thinkers, doesn't matter. This is a global movement, a global nonprofit without any rules, and we celebrate chaos because it opens up nonlinear thinking. And that's why we say we solve the unsolvable, because something is only unsolvable from a linear perspective, otherwise it's not unsolvable. And that's why we solve the unsolvable. It's the nonlinear approach to problems in the world. Problems, we have 5 problems we like the most: hunger, homelessness, climate change, education, and well-being. And it's something is unsolvable only from a linear perspective. Otherwise, you cannot say it's unsolvable. And it's so much fun. I love that.
I get what you're saying because so when I'm meditating and boom, a random brilliant idea just pops into my head. and I'm like connecting three dots, random three dots together, and they come together with an idea. I appreciate how you explained all that because I feel like it conditions us to have stronger neural pathways for linear thinking and less for nonlinear thinking. So it's for some people it's hard for them to be creative or to not think in a linear way. And we get a chance to exercise these other portions of our minds to think differently.
So why do we have nonlinear brains in a linear world? What the hell happened? And it's I've studied this research paper of the Institute of Economic Affairs, and the title is Chaos Management and Economics: The Implications of Nonlinear Thinking. Serious shit, you know. And it's and they looked at why is there linear thinking, and what happens if you change an organization or change a whole country into towards nonlinear thinking. What are the benefits? What's happening? And they first had to discover why everything is so linear. And it has to do with the fact that people find it difficult to go into their own mental being, their mental state.
Oh, yeah. It's scary in there. I don't want to be in there.
It's scary as hell. We don't want to go there. So the basic response not to go there is to create control. So we want to stay away from chaos. 4.5 years ago, I gave away everything and I became homeless. I was searching for chaos. I wanted to deep dive in that and see what would happen. I did something nobody likes to do, and I can tell you, don't do it. It's horrible. But I've learned a lot from it, but it's suffering. It's very difficult. But people don't want to go there, obviously. And the way to stay in control so you don't have to go to your own mental being is to create control. And the way we create control is create systems. So I know what will happen in the next 10 minutes. So I've seen your system of interviewing. I know your questions. We're in control. We know the time. There are no surprises. And if there are no surprises, I don't have to investigate what happens to my brain if you offend me all of a sudden tremendously. And I don't have to worry about that. That's very comfortable. So, and I know what will happen next week. I have my calendar, I have everything planned. I know what's happening next month. I know at the end of the month my salary. That's that's the linear system. That is very helpful. But there's a downside to it, and it's that these systems are being created. And it's more and more and more. And now everybody is talking about education, that something should change because we all evolved and humanity and we're all different and these kids and but the educational system has stayed the same. And everybody is talking about we should change it. Nothing is happening, even though there are some brilliant people on TED who are talking about education and they're celebrated in millions of views, but nothing is happening and nothing will happen.
I feel like that's going to be a slow progression because who wants their kid to be the guinea pig of the new educational program, right? I think some people out there are game, but I think most people um, are are a little, like you said, it's chaotic, and people sort of shy away from chaos. Yet we live in a world that is chaotic and ever changing and always evolving, and there's flow to it. And if you can step outside of the structures and just recognize the flow and go with it, you actually feel a bit more relaxed, I think personally, in life. Um, and it's interesting you were talking about the education system because I feel like some people would identify certain quote unquote learning disabilities as nonlinear thinking or falling into that camp. Like I know I'm undiagnosed ADHD and dyscalculia um, and dyslexia. But I wasn't diagnosed with that stuff as a kid, and it didn't slow me down. But I do notice things as an adult that I'm like, oh, my brain operates a little bit differently than other people. But I think, but that's only a subset of this concept of nonlinear thinking, because I think, like you said, everybody thinks nonlinearly. It's just a matter on sort of what and what scale.
On what scale? And this is explainable as well if we can link this to neurodiversity, which is really awesome. Is we just talked about people that become very linear because they want to be in control, because they don't want to go to their mental state. Like, what are my fears? How am I going to respond to something that I don't know yet? Now, people with neurodiversity respond differently to that, not because of their neurodiversity, but because of the linear world responding to people that are neurodivergent or have neurodiversity. I never know how to say that, but sorry if I make a mistake. I constantly do that. I have dyslexia, by the way, ADHD, spectrum, awesome, neurodiversity. So what happens with people with neurodiversity is, the point I want to make is that these people are constantly challenged by the fact that they're different, if they have a label or not. So there is this space of neurodiversity and you don't fit in the box. And let me give an example of how it was for me at school. I have dyslexia. So every time I handed in a paper, even if it was biology or history, it wasn't about language, I got it back, red marks everywhere because I made all these spelling mistakes constantly. It drove me nuts. So I was constantly thinking, what's wrong with me? Am I stupid? Am I dumb? What's going on? I'm the only one who gets it back like this. So, but I'm very grateful for the linear world to treat me like this because it trained me to be nonlinear. Why? Because I doubt myself. I was constantly questioning myself. Why am I weird? What's different from me? And if you do that, you create a muscle almost that is very strong in diving into my own brain. So I can allow chaos to have in my life because I know how I will respond. I know how I respond to chaos. And now I love it. So that's why some groups of people tend to be a little bit more nonlinear, because they've trained their brain, they've trained themselves to look into their own brain more sufficiently than people that are saying, I want to stay away of my mental state of being and I want to control everything. That's awesome. So it's not about neurodiversity of superpowers. That's a little bit of a trend, right? Hire someone with ADHD because they have superpowers. Bullshit. It's not about that. It's it's about the human. It's not about ADHD. What the hell? This is linear thinking.
Because ADHD, dyslexia, whatever, these are only quote unquote problems in a linear education system that has to teach to the slowest performing student. And then you get a label because you're not like
And
everybody.
you only get a label. It's
Yeah.
Lisa, it's you get a label when there is a problem. So I recently asked the university with 42 design students. I said, okay, design the space for me before neurodiversity. What is the space before neurodiversity? So what I'm trying to say is that it's weird because that space before neurodiversity doesn't exist. So let me explain. If you go to see a doctor and say, all these weird things are happening in my life, and then you do a test and you figure out, oh shit, it's ADHD. That's why I can't focus. That's why I'm always distracted. That's why all this shit is happening. But that's also why I do even more than others. Oh, okay. So you get tested when there's a problem, and then you get tested and you get the label. And I love labels because it explains to you what's going on, so it makes sense to you. Awesome. But before you got tested, you were the same person with the same brain, and then you didn't have any ADHD. My nonlinear brain cannot handle this. It's like, that's too linear for me. I don't get that. So then I should hire someone with ADHD and not someone who doesn't have ADHD but can be the same person. So in the end, it's about you as a human and not about if you have a label or not. And I love labels because they explain to you what's going on in your brain. Fascinating topic.
And how much, people say, oh, ADHD, it's, increasing, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm like, well, there's all kinds of technology out there that's basically training young brains to have what we might consider shorter attention spans. But also, before a structured education system, I'm sure there were people that had short attention spans or what have you, but they weren't being forced to sit in a structured classroom. So that type of quote unquote learning challenge wasn't evident, right? Some of this stuff only comes about because you're trying to force people into a specific, like you said, structure. And when things don't fit, then you get this label. But at the same time, we I think we all have attention challenges. And
I
just
hope
because you might
so.
have more than somebody else
Yeah.
doesn't, you right? I so this we could talk hours just on this topic, but I have a lot of other questions to ask you. So this no apologies. It's just I wanted to anyway, no apologies because I think that was important to cover because that's sort of the baseline for how some people might come towards the nonlinear thinking concept.
Yeah. So, and you're not a nonlinear thinker when you have neurodiversity. It's there's an there's a connection, but it's not like I have neurodiversity, so I'm a nonlinear thinker. Please. And if you're a creative person, that also doesn't mean automatically you're a nonlinear thinker. Close your eyes, think about a very creative person, and it has weird hair, weird glasses, the fancy shoes that you never see in a different shop, and like, where did they buy them? And they're so creative, but they're so linear in their creativity. It's we address that in a linear way again. So a nonlinear thinker can be anyone. You don't recognize them. Can be your neighbor who's an accountant. That can be a nonlinear thinker as well. So be careful with, you know, putting up the tags and stickers, and you don't know.
Yeah,
You don't know. You don't
I
know.
don't like this. I don't like the tags. I don't like the labels
No.
whatsoever. And I could go on a soapbox on how once you've labeled a kid with certain something something, then they start to have a whole identity around that, and I feel like it's not useful sometimes for their personal development. But anyway, emotionally, I think it's really interesting that you talk about how the nonlinear thinking comes from sort of looking within oneself and sort of being more comfortable um, within the mind. And I often wonder if we had a broader society. I don't know how it is in Europe, but in the United States, the concept of mental health and managing your emotions and just letting them be is not something that people are really well. We're not trained in that generally.
No.
We have to learn that as adults. And so people either let their emotions control them or they suppress their emotions or some combination of the two. But both aspects are running from your emotions and not just facing them and dealing with them to the point where you can then feel comfortable with them and let yourself feel comfortable with yourself
Mm-hmm.
and just love yourself for who you are. And I feel like that's kind of what you're getting at is when you can feel comfortable with your mental state, where you're at any given time, and allow the mind to just open up and be freer in its thoughts and associations, then that nonlinear thinking comes forward.
Mm-hmm. I use a mantra in within nonlinear thinking, and it's borrowed from some an amazing dude, and I forgot his name now. Mr. Leary himself. He always said in the 60s, turn on, tune in, and drop out. And I love that. And I changed it in turn on your nonlinear thinking, tune in to the human mycelium. We will talk about that later, and drop out of the laws of thought. The last one is the linear thinking. So the laws of thought were created by Mr. Boyle in 1815, if I'm not mistaken. And these laws of thought is the binary thinking. It's what the educational system used as well, and it's the start of the computer language. It's ones and zeros. It's right or wrong. It's left or right. It's that way of thinking. And it's good to be aware of that. Again, there's no judgment. I use a lot of linear thinking in my life. Excel sheets, databases, organizations, agendas, calendars, whatever. But it's good to know both sides and drop out of the laws of thought that if you're stuck with something, it is good to stop the brain for a second and be aware that you need to stop out the laws of thought, that the thought pattern that's created in your brain is linear conduct. It's created there, and you can step away from that and then turn on your nonlinear thinking. And why would you do that? Well, why not? You know, there is there is a lot of misery in the world. There are a lot of people very unhappy. We're not very kind to each other. There are wars going on. There are people that are hungry. We're not very kind to each other. We're destroying nature. I think it's good to create some balance between nonlinear and linear thinking, and that it's not just about linear thinking, which is there is this cool scientist in the UK. Oh, what's his name? I'm so bad with names, but he's talking about the left and the right brain, and the linear thinking is that part of the brain where everybody's going for their career and the money, and it's and he calls that grabbing and stabbing. It doesn't matter. It's almost like there some people say there are two kinds of people. It is so interesting because it fits in that whole left and right brain and grabbing and stabbing and linear nonlinear thinking. You have the people that identify themselves based on the relationship, meaning I'm Perry, I'm a father, I'm the founder of the Octopus Movement. The relationship. The relationship that is the brand of my car, the relationship with the money on my bank account, the relationship with my Nikes. You know, that's the relationship, and that identifies in who I am. And then you have a group of people that identifies themselves based on values. What are my values? Those are important to me. I want to be honest. Love, relationships, being clear, not convincing anyone, whatever. Okay, fine. But what does that bring in today's world? Most normal people, linear people, identify themselves based on the relationship. So if you're working in an organization and most of your colleagues identify themselves based on the relationship because they are the marketing manager of this company. So the relationship is the colleagues as well. So you protect each other because you identify based on each other. And then you, as a bit of a weirdo, as a nonlinear thinker comes in, and you're more focused on the other side of the brain, and you identify based on values, honesty. And you come into this space where normal is normal, typical, and it's based on the relationship, then you say, this is not fair. This is not honest. And then everybody's offended because you choose that direction that is opposite of the relationship of being colleagues. So that's why being weird is not only about being weird, but other things are going on as well. And then you come in as being someone else, and you become a huge misfit. But you're not. But there are different elements going on. And if you understand this, and if you can talk about this and can say to your manager, listen, I'm very nonlinear, so forgive me if I go into different directions. And if you want to benefit this, then I'm the one to go to if there's a problem. If you want to solve something very difficult, because I can use different thinking. Mr. Dr. Joe Dispenza, it's doctor, right? Or Mr. I don't know. Joe Dispenza, you know the dude. He says that 98% of your thoughts are the same every day. So if that's true, and your management team is going out on Friday afternoon together to have a brainstorm session because the company is not doing great and there needs to be some different thinking to create new products or to solve some issues, then you're doing this with a bunch of linear thinkers that are all thinking the same thing over and over and over. I wish you good luck. Even if you're not in the office, that's such a weird thinking that if we change our clothing and we go to some other place, then we think differently. I can assure you that's not the case. You think exactly the same. And if you have a bunch of linear thinkers, they don't want to change anything. They're fucking scared. Sorry for saying that. And nothing
Oh, you can
happens.
swear on this
Oh,
show.
yes.
I encourage it.
Oh, thank God.
There are no bad words. There is only poor usage.
Okay. Thank you so much. Because I'm so frustrated with that. It's and not really, but it's a waste, and we're pretending that we're doing something and we're not doing anything. And then you have these few nonlinear thinkers in your company that you think they're difficult or weird or what do we do with them? Bring them together. Take them with you if you're doing a brainstorm session to create a new product. If you really want to do something, you really want to change something, listen to these nonlinear thinkers because they can do that. It's so awesome. But they're also the difficult ones that don't identify themselves based on the relationship. So they can be a little bit of pain in the ass. But they're awesome.
That's HR's problem, though.
Yeah.
I think I get what you're saying because, like, when I went to Burning Man a couple of times, that to me is a very nonlinear place, and 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 people who are linear, I've watched them, like the first couple of days, they don't know what to do with themselves and they don't really know how to operate in this amazing Black Rock City experience. And it takes them a little time to adjust and they start to get it. But what I like about, like, people talk about the playa provides and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, it's a random field. You've taken people out of their normal experience and you plop them into this other artistic, weird, creative, kooky experience with all kinds of music and art and theater and all this creativity surrounding you. And usually by the end of the week, the people that are brand new to Burning Man, by the end of the week, suddenly they're like, oh my God, I understand now why I've been having all these problems in my life. And now I get what I need to do. Because they were taken out of their normal experience, plopped into some place where they have no relationships with anybody, anything else. Everything's so new and different. And it allows that nonlinear part of them to come forward and intuitively solve the challenges that they've been struggling with that they couldn't solve any other way in their normal life.
And it feels so damn good. They're having so much fun. It feels so good. The anxiety is gone. It's awesome. It's almost like I remember watching a documentary, and it was a part of the documentary was about LSD, and I was watching that. I was thinking, oh shit, I'm on LSD every day. That professor who discovered LSD was explaining his experience, and it's like, this is a normal day for me. Don't tell anyone, but this is normal for me. And I shared that in the Octopus Movement, and I didn't share about that's normal for me, but people were responding it the same way. Like, well, if this is LSD, then I'm on LSD every day. And so I'm thinking that LSD is wonderful and other psychedelics is to you are a nonlinear thinker, then you go into your education, you go very linear, you wear tight underwear, and then you need to be in control for everything, and then you use a substance, and then you go back into that nonlinear world, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. Can you imagine if you can live like that always without using any mushrooms or LSD or whatever, just to be a nonlinear thinker all the time? It's not a flow state, it's just who you are. It's possible. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Salvador Dali was one of those people who kind of lived in a nonlinear surreal experience. This is just total coincidence. My t-shirt says "Stay Surreal." I got this at the Salvador Dali Museum, and people would ask him, like, "You must do LSD, like, you absolutely have to." And he's like, "No, I don't. I've
No,
never
no,
done that. I just
no,
look at a
no.
blade of grass and I just keep looking at it
And it
until
comes.
the vision
Yeah,
comes, and I might stare at it for 2 hours."
yeah.
Right?
Cool, huh?
Again, allowing the linear part of the brain to fade away, and
Yeah.
the intuition and the creative come forward. And
Hmm.
we're talking about this world. I mean, we have a lot of problems in this world created with linear thinking. Are we going to solve them with linear thinking? I
No,
don't think so.
no. And the secret to the success is this. So there are a lot of awesome nonlinear thinkers. Salvador Dali, Pablo Picasso, David Bowie, Prince, who else? Nelson Mandela, you name them. But it's almost like they need to have some form of linear success so the world can celebrate their nonlinear brilliance. So again, it's yin and yang. It's not just being weird as hell, so that will change everything. It doesn't work that way. We live in a linear world. So there must be some kind of balance. There must be something going on, right? Look at Ai Weiwei, Buckmeister Fuller. Do you know him?
Oh, yeah, of course. One of my biggest
If
heroes.
if you don't know him, look him up. It's Jim Carrey, David Lynch, Andy Warhol, um, uh, Rick Rubin. Everybody's talking about Rick now. He's very nonlinear, right? Vivian Westwood.
Any comedian is a nonlinear thinker.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned human mycelium, and I don't want to go too far into this conversation without touching on that, because I think that's also a very interesting concept. So
yeah.
lay it out for us. What do you mean by human
Okay,
mycelium?
okay. Small story. I became homeless, gave away everything. After 7 months, I survived homelessness, and I thought, okay, so I can do whatever I want to do. This is so cool. And I discovered being homeless that nothing really changes. So inside, me is me. If I'm homeless or not, doesn't matter. How he sees me changes. So how you see me as the founder of the Octopus Movement is different from Perry who's homeless, but Perry's still Perry. So if I'm very successful or not doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. That's a very good start in creating a global movement. So nothing changes. If I'm successful or not, it's Perry. That's all. And I started the Octopus Movement with 50 people. And I thought, if I bring a billion nonlinear thinkers together, what will happen? And my joke was a billion nonlinear thinkers. That's a billion humans. Everybody is a nonlinear thinker. Meaning, what happens if we come together and the focus is on together? And then people were saying, wow, you're building such a cool community. And then something happened with me. It's like, ugh, that doesn't feel good. It's
Because it put you in a
what I'm,
box. Oh, you
what
have a community. This is this thing that you
exactly
have created now.
what I'm trying to say is that it felt wrong, and it felt like this is not good. And then I started thinking, why does it feel good? Exactly what you're saying. It's a box. I felt like I need to have an entrance ticket or a badge. I need to have rules. I need to pay, for instance, to enter, and I also leave. It's temporarily. I'm in this community because I live there. I'm in this community because I go there, and I'm able to go out. And I thought that's not the Octopus Movement. The Octopus Movement is we're there anyway, and we find each other to dance together and being ourselves in a nonlinear way. So I thought, shit, you know, community is not the word. What do I do now? I had no clue. And my nonlinear thinking, so cool. Okay, park it, forget about it. And I was watching this documentary from Paul Stamets on
Oh, I
fungi.
love Paul Stamets. We interviewed his
You
professor
did?
on the podcast. We'll
I
link to
think
that.
I think Paul Stamets is so fucking cool. It's amazing, and his story is amazing. And then he was talking about the mycelium. He talks always about the mycelium, and it's the network underground that connects all the trees together. And that network that looks like a neuron network of your brain or the internet or whatever you want to call it, it's all connected together. And then you have the fruit bodies, and those are mushrooms. So I thought this is so cool. Now this works with me, the mycelium, because these trees are supporting each other. These trees are not saying, "Hey, dude, you lost too many leaves too early this year. Uh-uh, you're not in," right? They don't do that. There are no rules, and there's nothing. There's no system. They're all connected, and it's working. And that's when I thought, okay, we have a human mycelium because we're connected anyway. It's there anyway. We're not creating anything. And I think that's for me the most important thing. We're not doing anything. It's there anyway. And that makes me very excited. And this part of the human mycelium is one of the things that people in the Octopus movement are the most excited about because it's the human connection, and it's there without any expectations. It's there without a system that connects all of them. It's there anyway, and people see each other and connect and talk, and it grows and it grows. And I get pictures from people all over the world meeting each other, and I'm not organizing that. We're not organizing that. It's just happening. So it's the proof of the human mycelium that makes me very, very positive for the near future that this is how we connect. And then I go one more step, is that this human mycelium is linked to human intelligence. And that's something I'm so excited about. That's what it's about now, and that's what it's becoming more and more important in life. You know, some CEOs are saying that they need different thinking to survive the next decade. The different thinking is human intelligence. We have artificial intelligence on the other side, which is super cool. And I'm so excited that the linear world created artificial intelligence. So the linear world created the best linear solution, which is artificial intelligence. So if everything in nature is balanced, if everything is yin and yang, then the energy that goes into artificial intelligence, that same amount in energy is going into human intelligence, because we now need creative thinking more than ever, especially in combination with artificial intelligence. Because if you bring that human intelligence and artificial intelligence together, it's fireworks. It goes fast. It goes beyond. It's awesome what you can create. But if you ask AI to create whatever symphony of Beethoven that doesn't exist yet, and an AI creates something beautiful, it's perfect. And you can't see where it's wrong, and it's not wrong. But a trained ear and a music lover will say, there's something wrong. I'm I'm missing the emotion, I'm missing the soul, I'm missing the human intelligence. And I think the future for nonlinear thinkers look very bright. I think there's going to be so much more focus on human intelligence, and especially with that human mycelium where we're connected anyway, that's going to be so important.
I love what you're saying about this human mycelium because, I mean, okay, this is going to sound a little woo-woo, and I also intuitively understand that it's something that exists, which is we're energetically all connected. We don't have to be in the same room to be energetically connected, and we recognize this when we're thinking about somebody and they give us a call. But it's the fact that most of us haven't developed an awareness of that to be able to leverage it in like a tangible way, in this reality. And so what I love about what you're doing with the Octopus Movement is you're helping people to bring consciousness to this concept that we're all connected regardless. And then if we're a little bit more intentional about it around maybe certain topics or interests or what have you, then that connectivity gets stronger without having to be restricted through rules or structure or expectations or all these things that ultimately create stress um, and anxiety on us as human beings, and then that ultimately restricts creativity. So, can you tell us a little bit more about how the octopus movement operates and and how people could participate in the movement?
This is funny. People, especially in the beginning, were saying to me, "What's your plan?" I don't have a plan. Okay, what's your business plan? I don't have a business. What's your blueprint? I don't have a blueprint. What are your 5-year steps? I don't have that. It's organic growth. We're bringing people together and we see what happens. And I'm working my ass off. I'm working from 6:30 in the morning until midnight every day. This is my passion. This is so awesome. I'm not doing anything and I'm working my ass off at the same time. There is no plan. So how does the octopus movement operate? Like that. There are no rules. People come in. It doesn't mean it's chaos, not at all. But we see this in a nonlinear way. We know where we want to go. We know that we want to solve the unsolvable. I know that there is this huge power there of nonlinear thinkers, and we can solve a few of these major issues we have in the world. And it's going to be easy, and it's right in front of us, and it's a no-brainer. Maybe we can solve education. Maybe we can create a different kind of education. Maybe we can create a solution for climate change, homelessness. That's what we do. So how can you be involved? You go to the website of theoctopusmovement.org and you can become a member. It's for free. It's fun. There's, again, you don't have to be a nonlinear thinker or a linear thinker. It doesn't matter. If it resonates with you, go for it. And then you can decide what you want to do. Do you want to be part of the think tank? Think tank, I need to explain. This was my biggest passion. Okay, we have all these nonlinear thinkers. And the point I'm making here is that their brains are awesome. And how do you bring that together? And the first year we did the think tank, it was a mess. It was chaos and there was no system, nothing. And it was very nonlinear, but it wasn't bringing any linearity at all. And I wanted to produce white papers. I wanted to do good things. After a year, we've created a nonlinear system for the think tank. And it means now that we have, in an average think tank, between the 30 and 40 people that are quite nonlinear. They're from all over the world. They come together in a Zoom session. And within 50 minutes, we create a solution and turn that into a white paper. We do that for companies. We do that for startups. We love doing that for startups. We do that for the educational world. So if your management team is thinking about, oh, let's brainstorm together, then forget about it. Connect with us and tap into that black box of nonlinear thinking. And it doesn't cost you like weeks of consultancy. It's 50 minutes and then a few days to write the white paper. So when you sign up for the Octopus Movement, you can even decide to be in one of these think tanks. You can just swim with other octopi. Every other week we have a session where octopi are meeting all over the world, so new connections are being made. We have Circle of Friends within the Octopus Movement where we support each other. We have founding members, people who donated once €300 to be a founding member and to be in the inner circle of the Octopus Movement. We have ambassadors that are saying, hey, in this part of the world, I'm going to be responsible for the Octopus Movement. We have like 48 ambassadors. We have 120 founding members. We have over 8,000 general members. It's awesome. We have teachers. We're linked to education. And it's growing and developing. And we're doing big projects now all over the world. It's awesome. And we're now even working together with a specific agency in the United States that likes to travel away from the globe, if you know what I mean. And we're working for them as well, doing think tanks, talking about leadership. We didn't even talk about leadership, but can you imagine if you use this nonlinear mindset and you drive that into leadership and if I would be your manager, as a nonlinear thinker, it would be very different than your manager is very linear and very much into systems and control.
I think a lot of people would enjoy that though, because most people are being
Yeah.
evaluated on KPIs and
Yeah.
performance goals and all this crap that stresses you out and makes you think, oh, well, now I need, instead of, being um, sort of inspired by the work I'm doing, now I got to train myself to fulfill these like numbers and all this data that I'm going to be evaluated on
Yeah.
instead of, my contribution. And so I think at least in the career world, I see this all the time. And I'm a consultant to companies. And so they'll ask me, so what are your KPIs? How are you going to demonstrate that the work you're doing is effective and valuable to my business and worth the money I'm paying? And I'm like, well, public relations, it's kind of like being in love. Like, when you're in love, when your PR is working for you, you will know it. I can't tell you how that's going to be because it's going to be different for everybody. But you will definitely know when your PR program is working for you. And as soon as you turn that off, you'll know it was working because you won't be having that experience anymore.
And that would be great leadership, right? Listen, I have a management team of 28 nonlinear thinkers. I also understand why linear thinking is in this world. I get it. I think it's easier to manage 28 linear thinkers with KPIs. It's easier, trust me. But I'm having so much fun with my management team of 28 nonlinear thinkers. And what they are capable of is just freaking awesome. And by creating something global in this size, I need 28 nonlinear thinkers. And I also need linear thinkers. And definitely. And I'm very happy my accountant is linear as hell. That's awesome. And I have many debates with him. It's wonderful. Again, it's a game, but it's a dance, not a game. It's a dance between linear and nonlinear thinking, and it's awesome, especially if we can use that language to make things happen. So if you can do both, it's wonderful. I think Quentin Tarantino is both. He understands the business part, the linear part very well, and he understands the nonlinear part in creating great movies.
Well, because he's a total cinematic nerd. So he has consumed thousands of hours of of obscure movies. And then you watch his movies, and somebody on Wikipedia has gone through and will give you the reference to every single thing in that movie and where it
Yeah.
came from.
Cool, eh?
All the little
Cool,
Easter eggs.
eh?
Yeah, it's cool. It's because, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I felt inspired to share that little tidbit because he's that creativity comes from an absorption of information and getting nerdy and weird and just like over obsessed with certain genres of of of
Yeah.
cinema.
I love that. I find it so inspirational to see people like that. And from my point of view in linear, nonlinear, like, look at that. It's you're so creative, but you're also so capable in understanding the systems and using them as they are. It's what a beautiful dance. What an inspiration for me not to be just nonlinear, but to be both. I think it's beautiful if you can be both. It's so helpful for all of us.
I have a question for you for people who would like to strengthen their nonlinear thinking. What would be some advice that you would give them or activities that they could participate in that would help them either build up this capability more or feel more comfortable using it?
Okay, I have a few things to say about this. Ready? Um, Meditating. Okay, if we can look at meditating from a linear and a nonlinear perspective, what is meditation? Meditation is nothing. There's no system for meditating, people. Please. Because if your goal in meditation is to don't have any thoughts, and your method in doing that is meditating every day at 7 o'clock and every day at 4 o'clock, and use some kind of system to go there, you're not meditating, you're using a form of self-hypnosis. It's not meditation. Please? There is no method in meditation. It's you. You need to discover how it works for you. So you need to go into your mental state. It's not about meditating every day at 4 o'clock together with a community of people who are also meditating at 4 o'clock. How fucking linear do you want to have it? I can swear here, right? Holy shit. That's not meditation. That's marketing. People, you don't need an app for meditation. Trust me. You don't need a meditation teacher. Trust me, you don't. You need to listen to yourself and you need to explore yourself how to shut up in your brain. You just need to stop thinking, and that works differently for everyone. I can give you a small exercise that is really fun. It's not a method, it's just to help you to know what quieting your brain is like. So maybe you're listening, maybe you're not. Let's do this. You you come relaxed and you're thinking, let your thinking flow. It's fine. You take a deep breath, one or two, like, okay, you really relax. And then you ask your brain one simple question. What is my next thought?
My brain says, I don't know. I don't know what my next
Exactly. And it takes a split second to say, I don't know. There is this little tiny little gap where your brain is, what? That's a question I've never had before from Lisa. What the hell are you doing? What is your next thought? Doesn't work that way. You're not asking me that question. I'm firing thoughts to you. You're not asking me for the next thought. So that's a fun exercise to understand that there is quietness. I want to flip that switch whenever I want to, not when I'm meditating. This is meditation. So in this conversation, I flipped the switch multiple times, many times, in between sentences. Switch it off because I want to listen to you and I don't want to have my brain talking to me about what I'm going to say next. I don't want that. I want to listen to what you say, stop, and then it comes by itself. That's my nonlinear thinking. To get there, I need to flip the switch. So the most important exercise, and there are 8, the most important one, number 1, is quiet your brain, please.
And it's through that quiet or the calmness or whatever you want to say, however you want to phrase it, it's through that state that the nonlinear thinking is able to come through.
And also what helps for me is I always like to see the opposite as well. So if I want to quiet down the brain, I also want to give my brain all the liberty to go nuts. I do that as well. And I find that a form of meditation as well. That I'm like, okay, bring it on. Bring it on. Go nuts, go, fire it up, say everything, think everything, create everything, go, and then put on music that drives it even more nuts. And there's like on my headphones, ding, 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 and my brain goes, that's fun as well, don't torture yourself. Meditation is that as well, is to fire it up. That's also meditation. And I think that will learn you to also quiet down, is also to allow the noise. If you don't allow the noise, how can you quiet down if there's not the opposite, right? You cannot go in if you can't go out. And I also found the opposite of nonlinear thinking is, of course, linear thinking, but it's also drawing a conclusion. Think with me. If you draw a conclusion, you close the door of that room. This is my conclusion. It's the end of it. It's very linear. It's your thinking. You draw the conclusion based many times of your own thoughts, maybe on research, maybe research papers, numbers, but it's based on thinking. You draw the conclusion, and it's the end of the line. There's no conversation. That's not nonlinear thinking. That's linear thinking, to draw a conclusion. And I noticed that some people are in a habit of drawing conclusions pretty fast. They feel comfortable with it. That's not helpful if you want to be in a space of nonlinear thinking. Because if you draw a conclusion, it removes the space between thoughts. It's there. These are the thoughts, and that's the end of it.
So we've talked a lot about all kinds of different stuff, and I love this. This is the kind of stuff that is very juicy for me because the the I feel like these types of conversations are the catalyst for all kinds of creativity. So I really appreciate that you're creating a language and a frame by which we can start to see the world in our various problems in a different way. So my last question for you is, if you, knowing what you're doing right now with the Octopus Movement and how people are coming together and collaborating in an organic way, and you look to the future, like 10, 20 years from now, what is the vision, or what do you expect to come out of of this new frame of mind and how we think?
So 20 years from now, I hope we've created the language that we can use in everything, in relationships, in education, in business, in working, in HR, that we can talk about linear, nonlinear thinking. That would be awesome. That you can say to your spouse, I know you want to plan this weekend in a linear way, and I know it suits you well, but keep in mind I'm flipping nonlinear, so I love you, and I love the fact that you are so linear in organizing this weekend. But please know that I get a lot of energy if there's also some non-linearity going on. It would be so cool for parents to understand their kids better, where you have a child that is on the spectrum or has ADHD and you're not, and your kid is different and you don't understand your child, and your child becomes therefore a bit non-linear, and you're very linear because you don't understand life, and life is difficult, and you want to plan everything, and you want to make sure your child is happy and successful, and you're using your own thinking to achieve that with your child. And there's no conversation possible. There's no language where the child can say, Dad, that's so linear what you're doing right now. And where we can have a laugh about that and say, you're absolutely right. I didn't see that. Can we do that? Can we have a new type of role in organizations? It's the nonlinear manager. I said nonlinear a lot this interview. Sorry for that. Um, an octopus manager. Let me call it an octopus manager. Otherwise, I start annoying people with that word nonlinearity. An octopus manager. And I want that manager to have a button, like, and it presses the button and it stops the system. That would be so cool. And then they can solve the problem. And then when everything is aligned, then the system can go on for that person again. Can you imagine your kid being at school and being different? And you need to adjust something, but the system doesn't allow you to change that. And you're wondering, but we're humans. isn't this weird that we're not able to do this? Of course it's possible, but there is a linear fucker there that doesn't want to change anything. So it's not possible, but in your brain, you know it's possible. How cool would it be to have an octopus manager in your organization that is capable of pressing that button, saying, okay, the system is not relevant for you anymore at this moment. We're going to solve this and we make sure it works again. And when you're safe and everything is okay, the system continues because then it works for you again. Because there's nothing wrong with the system as long as it works. So 20 years from now, I want to have octopus managers. I want people to understand that we're all nonlinear thinkers. I want to have 1 billion people together in the octopus movement that are all connected in this human mycelium, and we're all connected together and we're helping each other. We're supporting each other and we're celebrating human intelligence, where computers and the internet will evolve and it becomes more, and we don't know where we are. Maybe artificial intelligence is like the steam engine from the past. Can you imagine what happens in 20 years? Let's celebrate this human intelligence and go back into nature, who we really are. It would be so cool. And hopefully in 20 years, we're able to create the octopus school, or whatever you want to call it. I just don't want to use that word anymore, where we created a new educational system that works again and that makes people happy. Because what freaks me out, I talk to a lot of people. I've spoken with thousands of people. It's incredible. All of them, almost all of them, had a difficult time at school. And education is wonderful. And so many people celebrated education when they became adults and in their 20s. And they discovered that they're not stupid and that they're not bad in math, and that if you have dyslexia, you can write a book. Doesn't matter. Your teacher was wrong, right? Your teacher was wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes. And then we can create something new there so people can be more beautiful, because, to be very honest, we're not doing a very good job at the moment.
Earthlings, I am not even going to attempt to give you a linear wrap up of this conversation. So, in the spirit of nonlinear thinking, no conclusions, as Perry would say. So, let's go right to what restores our faith in humanity this week. Araba Mays. She is known as a street librarian in Baltimore, and she has completely rethought how to combat book deserts in the city. She's built a mobile library and mobile vending machines where she has 3,000 diverse books that she has put into the hands of children since 2020, put into the hands of children in 2022 alone. So, book deserts are places that, as you might guess, lack access to relevant books in the home. Especially, this is critical for families of young children, and this access can be really significant in contributing to persistent and pervasive educational disparities. So, in the worst book deserts, 300 children might be required to share the same book. And May says she's not just battling book access, she's battling the book experience itself. She says, quote, for a lot of these kids, reading has been a mandatory thing. It's been stressful and strenuous, so they have a negative reading experience. Reading's always been performative, something that you have to be good at, rarely for pleasure or enjoyment. This take it to the streets mentality is a shining example of how one person's ability to think about a problem in a new way and her dedication to implementing that idea is helping to create a brighter future for the next generation on this beautiful blue-green space flower that we call home.